Hi, I'm Stuart Harrison, and this is the Moreland Studio, or Moreland. This studio will be looking at the concepts of the suburban and housing and mixed-use development across this test site, which is local government area north of central Melbourne, and has a diversity of types in it. These are extracts from the Moreland planning scheme as it stands currently. The general land use in Moreland is reasonably diverse, both housing, industrial, commercial land use types. The current housing strategy looks at north-south corridors essentially along tram lines and a series of nodal activity centres around other transport infrastructure in a model that's been discussed a lot in recent years and to some extent has been implemented, and in some extent others, particularly notably around the Coburg station site. We'll be looking at several particular sites within Moreland. This is from the open space strategy, and Moreland's interesting as it's bound on the east and west sides by two creeks, the Moonee Ponds Creek and the Merry Creek, and on the northern side by the Western Ring Road, and on the southern side by Park Street. The neighbourhood character framework plan diagram here shows the commercial character essentially following the north-south corridor model, particularly along the important axis of Sydney Road, which is serviced both by road, rail and tram. The suburbs in Moreland include Brunswick and Coburg, and we'll be looking at some of these areas in the lower south ward. These are the local government wards, and also towards the top of the other two wards. The area of Moreland is divided, as all are in Victoria, into a series of zones for series of areas for planning scheme, and the zonal based system of land use is used, which controls and dictates certain things that can happen. We'll be critiquing that model, and census data has recently shown that city of Moreland population has increased. Its population is just under 150,000 people, and a slightly higher mixture of non-detached dwellings than is the average. One of the other sort of major technological aspects in Moreland is the NBN, the test site. Victorian test site is in Brunswick, and that area is currently undergoing expansion. This will affect the southern half of Moreland. And in terms of architectural projects, and particularly in relation to housing, this is my recent book, which looked at, I guess, smaller dwelling types and innovation in those types, and this report by the Grattan Institute looked at different housing models and innovation, well, really in demand for certain housing types that aren't being provided. And this diagram is from the very recent state government proposal to amend zones, and there's a diagram at the top here which I think would be worth critiquing in terms of associations of zones to housing types, and this really is about, to some extent, trying to control where densification occurs. These are some projects we'll look at briefly. This is James Russell's Bisley Place project in suburban Brisbane. This is a fantastic house project which is both profoundly suburban because of its location, but also in the way it kind of reinvestigates certain aspects of the suburban. And this is a project in Perth by Gary Marinko, which does this in a different way, about 10 years ago. This one by Jackson Clement Burrows. This is a more recent Victorian project, as is this one in St Kilda East by Rex Roth Management Collective, but building on certain notions of the suburban. And then this is a more recent, denser project, the Fitzroy Apartments by NMBW, looking at ways to hybridise particular housing models in a typically non-residential area. This may be of use in some of the mixed-use proposals that we'll come across on particular sites. And this one, which is a good case study, we'll look at in more detail, the Commons project by Breathe Architecture along the train line, the upfield line that runs through the centre of Moreland. So the studio will propose 3 architectural projects on particular sites in Moreland after some general research at the start to do with suburban and non-suburban housing types. It'll run on Thursday and Mondays, Monday afternoons 2 till 5 p.m. in Moreland, in Brunswick, in fact, at my offices, Sydney Road. That'll be 2 till 5, and Thursday evenings 5 till 8 down at Monash Caulfield. And the Thursday sessions will be more formal presentation sessions and more meeting-based sessions on Mondays. Next week, however, Monday, the first class will have that down at Monash Caulfield to start the studio. There'll also be some intensive days, probably the early Saturday in August. We'll have a session, and there'll also be a break of the studio, an earlier break in late August around the time of the Venice Biennale. Sorry I'm not there to take any questions, but look forward to seeing you in the studio. Thank you.